Okay, dear students, research projects generally comprise of 4 components. Only 4 components. The first component of research project is writing a informative protocol, constructive protocol. That is the first step. Once you are ready with the protocol, you have to perform the experiment. In the protocol itself, you will define what you are going to do, what chemicals you are going to use, what methodology you are going to adopt, and what kind of experiments you are going to do, how long you are going to do. Everything will be defined theoretically in a paragraph, in number of sheets. So once you define the protocol, you have to perform the experiments. Once you perform the experiment, you will get a result. That result you have to tabulate them and you have to analyze them. Once you analyze the data using statistics, you will reach a conclusion. You will reach this product has this activity. You will reach a conclusion. Once you reach the conclusion, you must write a paper for publication. Then you have to write a thesis. Normally people, they write thesis first, then write a paper for publication second. No. You have to write first the paper for publication. Once you start submitting the paper or submitted the paper, immediately you can start writing for thesis. So these are the 4 components. These 4 components should be performed within the given time of 6 months. You cannot take it to be performed for more than a year or a couple of years. Since you are doing the MSc or BTech final year, you have only 3 to 6 months in your hand to complete the work. Remaining 6 months, you can spend it for publishing your paper. It normally takes 6 months from submission to acceptance and eventual publications. Now let me highlight you with a very good example of these all 4 components in a simplistic way. Next slide please. Next slide please. Okay. Now take this title as your research title. It is just given for you for your better understanding. That's all. Fine. Now see the title. Effect of organic versus chemical fertilizers on the growth and yield of tomato plants. Now see here. I wrote the proposal here and I wrote the title, effect of organic versus chemical fertilizer on the growth and yield of tomato plant. We don't know the effect. So initially you have to come up with such kind of title. We don't know the effect. And this title is known as descriptive title. What title? Descriptive title. Means in which you may not know the result. Now you are performing the experiment and you find out organic fertilizers are better than chemical fertilizer, for example. Then you can again change the title from descriptive to declarative. Declarative means you are declaring the result. Now see, for example, organic fertilizers are better. You got the result, for example. Now I will change the title from this one to organic fertilizers are better than chemical fertilizer on the growth and yield of tomato plant. Now the title is changed. And this title is a declarative title. You are declaring the result. And there is one more title, that is interrogative title. Interrogative title is a title in which there will be a question mark. Is organic fertilizer superior than chemical fertilizer on the growth and yield of tomato plant? Question. And this title is known as interrogative. Normally for the research paper, don't consider including the interrogative title, either descriptive or declarative. But when you start the work, you cannot use the declarative title. Some people they use anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effect of this mushroom. How come you know? You should say that evaluation of mushroom for its anti-inflammatory and antipyretic effect. Like that you should write. But you cannot declare the result while you are writing the protocol. You got my point? So that's why I put the title descriptive. Effect of, we don't know the effect. Now let us see. Okay? Okay. Now next slide. The first step in research is to find out the question. To find out the question. What is the question here? Same thing. What is the effect? What is the effect of organic fertilizer over chemical fertilizer on the growth and yield of tomato plant? This is one question. Another question. Is organic fertilizer better than chemical fertilizer on the growth and yield of plant, tomato plant? Second question. What is the cost of effectiveness between organic and chemical fertilizer? Is the cost of chemical fertilizer lower than organic fertilizer or higher than organic fertilizer? Next question. And what will be the effect of organic and chemical fertilizer on the growth of tomato plant? Next question. Is there any study available in the literature of this kind of title? Whether previous researchers have evaluated already the effect of chemical versus organic fertilizer on the growth and yield of tomato plant? So many questions. These questions are known as what questions? Research questions. You are going to answer in your research. You are going to address in your research. You got my point? So before you come up with a question, you must know that there is a gap in the literature. Gap means nobody has done this work so far. Even some people might have done, but the results are not clear. So there is a gap in the literature. I want to fill that gap by doing the original research. So what is your gap? This is the gap. This is the gap. Now one student is going to read this one and try to understand what is the gap in this study. Anyone? I think you can read it. What is the name of Kirtana? Please read. You read it. While chemical fertilizers are widely used for growing tomatoes, look at this one. Chemical fertilizers are widely used for growing tomato. Concerns exist about their long-term effect on soil health. Concerns exist on the long-term effect on soil health and food safety. See, we know that chemical fertilizers are always used for developing the growth of tomato plants, but we do not know their long-term effect on the soil and the food safety. We do not know the long-term effect. So there is a gap in the literature. Organic fertilizer like neem cake, after crushing the neem seeds and extracting the oil, the remaining material is neem cake. That is also used as a fertilizer. Okay? Organic fertilizer like neem cake, cow dung manure or vermicompost. Vermicompost means manbulu uram. It is available here. Are safer, but may work slower. When we use chemical fertilizer, the growth of the plant may happen quickly, for example, as compared to organic fertilizer. There is a lack of small scale, look at the gap. There is a lack of small scale student-led comparative study on how these fertilizer affect plant growth and yield. Not only the growth of plant, yield of tomato also. Instead of 5 tomato per plant, maybe 10 tomato. So there is a lack of studies, comparative studies on the growth and yield at similar conditions. So there is a gap in the literature. No one has done this work. There is a gap. I am the first person to perform this experiment. So you have to define your research gap. First you have to define your research question. Question may be 1 or 2 or maybe 5 also. If you increase number of questions, you need more time to address the question. So at the PG level, you can restrict the question into 2, maximum 2 or 3. If you are doing the PhD, you can take it to questions. Does not matter because you will have the time to perform the experiment, 3 to 4 years. But for PG, we are restricted with only 6 months. For experiment, only 3 months. So you may have only 2 questions. So first you have to define your research question. Then you have to define the research gap. Research gap is a gap that has not been addressed by anyone or that is not completely addressed by anyone. So there is a gap in the literature, and this is the gap that I am going to fill in my research. You have to define. You understand? The first one, research question. Second one, research gap. Write down. Research question, research gap. The first step, research question, research gap. It is not the first one. The first one is the research problem is the first one. I'm coming to the point. Okay. Now, the first step in research I told you, problem. Research problem. What is the problem here? Look at the problem. Concerns exist about their long-term effect on soil health and food safety. If you use the chemical fertilizer, there will be a problem for soil health. And how you are going to rectify the problem? By chemical fertilizer with organic fertilizer like vermicompost, like neem cake, like cow dung manure. Got my point? But no research has been done. There is a gap. So the starting point of research is you have to clearly define the research problem. Then you have to find out the research gap. Then you have to come up with the research questions. Okay, come down. Next. Now look at the research questions. These are the 3 research questions that I am going to address in my research. It will be 5, it will be 10 also, if you have the sufficient time. But at the PG level, I told you maximum restrict the research question into 3. Maximum 3. Minimum 2. Don't keep only 1 question. Otherwise, your research will become less sensitive. You need to come up with minimum 2 to 3. Maximum 3. Okay? Now, one student is going to read these 3 questions. What I wrote. Anyone who can read English. Anyone.
Does the type of fertilizer, organic versus chemical, affect the growth rate of tomato plants?
Excellent. This is the first question. Does the type of fertilizer, whether we can use organic or whether we can use chemical, that affect the growth rate of tomato plant? We don't know. So first question you are going to address in your study. Second question.
Which type of fertilizer results in better yield, number and size of tomatoes?
Look at this one. Number and size. For example, one plant is there, another plant is there. Here 10 tomato, here also 10 tomato, but the size is small, here size is big. That also matters. 5 tomato can be 1 kilo, here 10 tomato can be 1 kilo. So size and tomato. So the second question is which type of fertilizer results in better yield, whether it is organic or chemical. And we can use for our study 3 organic and 3 chemical. Let us compare. And which type is better? So this is I am going to address. I am going to address in my research, and it is a very important research question. Third question.
How does fertilizer type affect the quality of soil after harvesting?
Look at this one here. I am going to investigate the soil health after harvesting. See, we do not only we need the growth of plant and the yield of plant. We need to maintain the soil health also. Or suppose soil is affected, the pH is changed. Next time you need to give more dose of chemical fertilizer. Instead of 50 ml, you have to give 100 ml. Again it will be affected. So one time there will be a time where you won't get any growth. So we need to maintain the soil health. Third question is, how does fertilizer type affect the quality of soil after harvesting? I am going to check the pH. Okay, so these are the 3 questions I am going to address. Now see, first I have defined the research problem. Second, I have defined the research gap. The third, I have defined 3 research questions. These are the questions I am going to answer, I am going to address in my study. For that I am doing the research work. For what purpose we are doing the research? To solve a problem. If anyone asks you, for what purpose you are doing the research, you are going to do research. To solve any problem. See here I am asking this student to minimize the slide, to move the slide. But if you have that slide mover, this problem can be solved. Even if I have the slide mover, I cannot minimize the slide. Again I have to ask her. So if I find a new device that can minimize the slide also and that I can type also, that problem can be solved. Now see, it's a closed room. There is no ventilation. Keeping the AC, that problem is solved. You got my point? There is no bench. You are unable to write. Keeping this one, the problem is solved. So research is done something for the purpose to solve a problem. That problem can be anything. For example, there are cracks in the wall. The problem. How to solve a problem? Some different kind of proportion of cement. If we use, that problem can be solved. For that, you have to do research. So for what purpose we are doing the research? Excellent, to solve a problem. ஒரே ஒரு line எழுதணும். The simple statement to solve a problem. Okay? Now you have to find the research problem then. If you want to solve the problem, you have to find the problem first. What is the problem? The first question. What are the gaps? You have to do the literature search. Anyone has already done the work? Anyone has tried to solve that problem? If someone has already tried, why do you want to repeat that one? So you have to find out the research gap, that is a unique research gap. The third one, research questions. Okay, fourth one. Now see here, hypothesis. Hypothesis means if we do like this, that problem can be solved. You are hypothetically telling without doing the experiment. Now I am telling hypothesis. Organic fertilizers may be better than chemical fertilizers. Or chemical fertilizers are better than organic fertilizers. Even in the organic fertilizer, this particular type may be better than that one. So this is the hypothesis. The hypothesis. You have to confirm that hypothesis by doing the experiment. That hypothesis may be accepted or may be rejected also. For example, you are telling there will be a difference between both group, chemical group and the organic group. Okay? And you are doing the experiment, there is no difference. Both are similar. Then hypothesis can be rejected. So hypothesis may be two types. One is null hypothesis, other one is alternate hypothesis. In the null hypothesis, we say that there is no significant difference in the growth and yield of tomato plant. In alternate hypothesis, you are saying that there is a significant difference between growth and yield of tomato plant. Now let us start the experiment. Do the experiment. Completely analyze the data. And finally we are finding that there are differences. If there are differences, which one you have to accept? Null or alternate? Alternate. And which one you have to reject? Null hypothesis. If there are no differences, which one you have to accept? Null hypothesis. If there are no differences, which one you have to reject? Very good, excellent. So null hypothesis means there are no differences. On the other hand, alternate hypothesis means there are differences between organic versus chemical fertilizer. You got my point? After the experiment, depends upon the result, you have to accept or reject the null hypothesis or alternate hypothesis. Note down. Null hypothesis, alternate hypothesis. Null hypothesis is X0, alternate hypothesis is H1. In null hypothesis, no difference, no significant difference. Alternate hypothesis, there are significant differences. Next. Okay, now based on this one, I have formulated one aim and a different objective. What is the difference between aim and objective? There may be one aim. To achieve that aim, we have different objective. For example, I want to reduce 5 kilo of my body weight. That is my aim. How to reduce? That is my objective. I may go for a jogging, I may go for a running, I may go to gym, or I may go for a diet control, or I may do the yoga. Anything I can do. So through different objective, we can achieve one aim. So your study must have one aim, being a PG student, with a different objective. What is the aim here? You read it.
To compare the effects of organic and chemical fertilizers on the growth, yield and soil health in tomato plant cultivation.
A well-defined aim. Now what are our objectives?
To measure and compare the plant height.
Wait. When you are going to measure and compare the plant height and leaf number, you can measure the growth and yield. See here, to measure and compare the plant height and leaf number in tomato grown using organic versus chemical fertilizer. Second one?
To compare the number, size and weight of tomatoes produced under both treatment.
So, by doing this one, you can achieve this aim. The growth and yield. Next.
To assess the changes in soil pH and organic matter before and after the experiment.
By doing this objective, you can achieve the aim of soil health. Correct?
To evaluate the cost effectiveness and ease of application of each fertilizer.
Yes, ease of application. For suppose using the organic fertilizer, you need a specialized instrument or specialized skilled person. That also may increase the cost. So what is the cost effectiveness? Which one is better in terms of cost? So this is my additional objective to achieve this aim. See here, one aim, different objective. One aim, different objectives. You got my point?
Yes, sir.
So these are aim and objective. That's all. The protocol, after that ready, you can start doing the experiment. You can start doing the experiment. You got my point? Which organic fertilizer you are going to use? Which chemical fertilizer you are going to use? What are the parameters you are going to measure? Parameter means height of the plant, number of leaves, number of tomatoes, number of the size of tomatoes, soil health, pH. I am going to measure pH in this way. Everything. These are the different object parameters. So once you complete the experiment, you can analyze the data. Once you analyze the data, you will reach the conclusion. Once you reach the conclusion, you can reject alternate or null hypothesis. Then you can start writing the paper. That's how research is completed. Have you understood?
Yes, sir.
Everything, everyone.
Yes, sir.
Understood?
Yes, sir.
Understood or well understood?
Well understood.
Very well understood. Very well
Understood.